Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 89 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joe Landy Pavlon. I have Justin Hebert with me tonight.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll bring Danny later on in the show as well, depending where he's at. And 2020 for major professional motorsports is officially over.
Yep.
The journey to get to where we're at today, December 14th, 2020.
Yep.
After almost 339 days since the beginning of the weekend of the Dubai 24 hours in early to mid-January. You can honestly put about 3-4 years in between. That's how long it felt. That's how crazy the ride has been. But the checkered flag for professional motorsports series in 2020 has waved. So we'll begin our podcast with the final race of the 2020 Formula One World Championship, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at Yas Marina Circuit for the 17th and final race of the World Championship. And in sports cars, the Intercontinental GT Challenge, affected greatly by the pandemic, ended their season in South Africa for the 9 hours of Kyalami. We'll talk about the championship, how that was won in a few moments, but we'll start with Formula One and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix held behind closed doors to end the 2020 World Championship. And Max Verstappen put on a clinic.
Yep. Abu Dhabi. Starting on the pole really helps. Yeah. If you start on the pole, get a good start, you could pull away. That's what Hamilton did last year. Hamilton led every lap last year, and this time Max does the same thing, leads every lap. Yep.
Well, Max Verstappen has to work twice as hard compared to the other, the duo that he starts beside almost every race that happened this year. Of course, the two Mercedes we're talking about, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen ending the year on a high note. Does this mean anything for 2021? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, it just depends the car that Red Bull builds for, because testing is in February. You always have to make sure your cars are not too much drag, which Red Bull did struggle with too much drag on their cars. Early this season, they struggled with speed. You basically want to build a car that's well balanced, like the Mercedes. That was really balanced.
Well, they were on point this whole year, but looking at the drivers who pushed, because there were incentives for some teams and drivers out there. It wasn't just a walk in the park for everybody to finish the 2020 World Championship off with. No, there were different circumstances that played a part in the Grand Prix as we go down the results. But Max Verstappen, he led all 55 laps from pole position. His third career pole, believe it or not, only his third pole, and his 10th career win, second of 2020, 42nd time on the podium for the Dutchman, who is only 23 years of age. It's hard to believe Max Verstappen is only 23 with all that experience.
Yeah, born in 97.
6 years of Formula One racing. And just unbelievable. Got a whole career ahead of him. We'll have to see where Verstappen goes in the future.
I just realized Max is 23. I'm 5 years younger. Yeah, and he started F1 at the age of 17. Yeah, me at 17, I was not doing racing, obviously. Yeah.
Second and third were the constructors champion Mercedes.
Yep.
Valtteri Bottas, who started second, finished second. And of course, beating the two Mercedes meant that the Finnish driver had to stay in the points.
You had to get top 4
to secure second in the World Drivers' Championship. That's exactly what Valerie did.
Yep.
His 56th career podium. And for the world champion, Lewis Hamilton, third place, 165 podiums. Mercedes double points, double podium.
Yep.
Were the champions, as rightfully they do. Fourth place, Alex Albon, who's still uncertain about the future with Red Bull. Verstappen's teammate Albon did a brilliant job in helping Red Bull take second in the Constructors' Championship.
Yep.
Albon started 5th. Looking down the order here, Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz did everything they needed to do to secure 3rd place for McLaren in the World Constructors' Championship. Norris finished 5th, Sainz finished 6th, and Sainz, of course, will move to Ferrari next year. Scuderia Ferrari, what do they have in store for 2020 after a struggling World Championship? Only time will tell.
Hopefully they build a car that's decent, because their car was not the best. Like, their SF90 from 2019 was a decent car. People said, oh, the SF1000 is going to cruise. Like, I remember people between 2019 and 2020, they said the SF1000 would cruise down the straights. That's why Mercedes built that OP car, which... No, everybody at the testing, like, why is Ferrari slow? Yeah, and then it was shown that Ferrari didn't have much pace in Austria at the first race of the season. And they're like, wow, that's they're not going to do good. Yeah.
Well, Carlos Sainz deserves a seat at Scuderia Ferrari, no question.
But hopefully they could up their performance from last year, but we don't know how they'll be. They say they upgrade their cars, but they're worse.
Season.
We'll see if they can
testing. I assume testing will continue to be held at Catalunya every off season.
Hopefully the car is better. If they show up with a worse car, that means their progress went the other way.
Right. But McLaren did everything they needed to do to secure 3rd in the World Constructors' Championship after Racing Point's clutch performance at the Secure Grand Prix with a win and 3rd place with Perez and Stroll. Unfortunately, that same success could not be replicated in order to secure 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. We'll go down the list here. Daniel Ricciardo, in his final start for Renault, finished in points for 7th place. And Ricciardo scored the fastest lap. The one thing that prevented Max Verstappen from completing the Grand Slam.
Yep. Yeah. Yep, Max only got 25 points because that bonus point. I remember this morning I was typing up the results. I'm like, I see fastest lap. I look at him like, Ricciardo? Like, I was confused at first. And yeah, Ricciardo did set that fastest lap.
Yeah, and speaking of the Grand Slam, it's a rarity. And Jim Clark still holds the record for most Grand Slams in F1 with 8 total, just 2 behind, 2 Grand Slams away from tying his record, of course, is Lewis Hamilton with 6. Verstappen almost made it into that club, just shy. Because his former teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, snatched it in the final laps. Pierre Gasly finished in the 8th position.
8th? Was it 8th? Oh, yeah. I just remembered Ocon finished 9th.
Yes, Ocon 9th.
And then Stroll. Last position in points for Stroll. 10.
Right. Fortunately, that was enough for Racing Point to get what they
they tried.
3rd place in the Constructors. They were close.
Perez up before his retirement. Perez was gaining on others, and then engine issue, which really didn't help.
Outside the points, Danny Kvyat, future unknown. Nothing confirmed for 2021 yet for Danny Kvyat and AlphaTauri. Kvyat finished 11th after starting 7th, and AlphaTauri secured 7th in the Constructors' Championship, despite winning the Italian Grand Prix with Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, like the thing about AlphaTauri, which was a mystery, at one point, anytime Gasly gets points, Kvyat was like 14th. That was the problem with AlphaTauri. Anytime that Gasly got into points, Kvyat would finish out the points. Or also, if Kvyat would get points, Gasly would finish out the points. Like, it's stuff like that that hurted AlphaTauri from passing Ferrari for 6th in the Constructors. If they had more double points, it would have helped AlphaTauri pass Ferrari.
Kimi Räikkönen, the most experienced driver in the Formula One grid, present day, 12th place, started 15th. Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, no points for Ferrari. Leclerc finished 13th and ends up 6th in the World Drivers, or 6th for Ferrari in the World Constructors' Championship. Leclerc finished 8th in the Drivers' Championship.
Okay, he was the best Ferrari driver, like, in the whole season, and, like, he had better finishes.
Right.
Yeah, which really helped him.
Sebastian Vettel in his final start with Ferrari. Outside the points, Vettel finished 14th behind his teammate.
Yeah.
And Vettel will go to the newly rebranded Aston Martin Racing F1 constructor, which is essentially what was Racing Point.
Yeah.
Aston Martin F1. Vettel confirmed to that ride next year.
Yeah.
We'll discuss about Vettel's situation after reviewing the results. 15th place, George Russell.
Yeah.
George Russell, 10th place for Williams in the World Constructors' Championship, and they are the only constructor this year to score 0 points.
The first time, because last year they scored 1 lucky point, but the Williams, they've improved from last year with speed. Like, they're not 3 seconds off this year. They're like a second, 1.5 seconds off Mercedes, which at least they improved. But it's like, I feel like hopefully if they build a better car for next year, they could gain some time again, because it's not helping with their. It's like since 2018, 2017 they had some flaws in performance, but it's 2018 that kind of hurted them, and then 2019 happened, because like 2018, Stroll was doing decent, but you had Sergei Sirotkin that got 1 lucky point at Italy. Other than that, Sirotkin was around 17th.
Right, and they weren't as subpar, going.
Yeah.
Going back to the mid 2010s, Williams were expected to finish in the points, and they brought veterans to the team to help out, like Felipe Massa and cultivated Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
If you think about Bottas and his age when becoming an F1 driver, it's a little later than usual. Yeah. And I think that's why Bottas is really as successful in Mercedes as he is today.
Yeah.
It's because the veteran experience was seemingly installed in Bottas by the time he got to Mercedes. And if you look at George Russell and what Russell did in place for Lewis Hamilton at the Secure Grand Prix last week, the questions will arise once again for the future of Mercedes in Formula One.
I was looking. Williams in 2015, they actually finished 3rd in the Constructors behind Mercedes and Ferrari. They were ahead of Red Bull. Like, there were some years where Williams would get 3rd or 4th in the Constructors. But now that it's just hard for them to get points. Like any driver you put, it's just the car just is.
Let's not forget about ownership as well. They've
been switching
behind the scenes. Tons of them.
They have an acting team principal after Claire and Frank left.
So new management.
It's
always have an effect for a team as a whole.
Yep.
No matter what sport it is.
Yep.
Antonio Giovinazzi finished 16th after starting 14th. Then Alfa Romeo finished 8th in the World Constructors Championship.
With 8 points.
Yeah, with 8 points.
Each had 4. So people are saying Raikkonen's better than Giovinazzi. I'm like, they scored 4 points, both of them. So they got equal number of points.
Nicholas Latifi finished 17th in the Grand Prix after starting 18th. He'll be back at Williams next year.
Yeah, he's a rookie. People are expecting rookies for Williams should do really well. I'm like, 1, the Williams car is not good. 2, he's a rookie. Like, an F1 car, like, I know he's won an F2 at Abu Dhabi. F2 cars
are factor of the championship as well.
Yeah, he finished second in the F2 title to Nick DeVries, but, like, an F1 car, it has more speed than an F2 car. It's like there's different things, and the Williams is not the best car on the grid. It's the worst car on the grid.
Kevin Magnussen, after starting 20th, finished his tenure with Haas F1. And Magnussen, in the foreseeable future, has exited Formula One, joining his father, J.M. Magnussen, in sports car racing in North America, racing the IMSA WeatherTech Championship. Kevin Magnussen will drive for Chip Ganassi Racing in their DPI program beginning 2021 at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yep.
And Magnussen is a subject of its own, because if you really go back to when Kevin Magnussen began his Formula One career, the expectations were that Kevin Magnussen would be in a top team, a constructor that's successful. McLaren, his time at McLaren didn't last long. His time at Renault didn't last long, and Haas just turned into a downward spiral. Quote emblem on YouTube.
Yeah, it's like
that term.
It's also Haas. People expected that. I remember Haas when they started out, their first Grand Prix, 2016 Australia. They had an up and a down in the same race when Gutierrez and Alonso collided, and Grosjean got P6. First race, they got points, which is really interesting.
And highly unexpected for any startup team, especially in Formula One. To get points is a big deal.
But P6 and they got P6 in the race, which is that it was interesting. I remember I recently listened to the radio clips of it, and Grosjean saying, "This is a win for us."
It really was.
Yeah, nobody expected the Haas to get P6 in their first start.
And we're not gonna deny anything about that performance because there were no crazy circumstances in the race. There was a technicality with that 6th place finish with anyone getting penalized or anything. And then let's not forget he finished 5th a week after Bahrain. Like, they can only get better, right?
Yeah. It's like
no.
Also, like this year, for why the Ferrari powered cars didn't do good. The Ferrari engine is lacking power. We saw it with Ferrari, Alfa, and Haas. But people think Haas is the worst team that lost pace. They only lost about 0.6 of a second. Ferrari about 1.2 seconds. Alfa Romeo lost 1.6 seconds of pace. So yeah, the speed is the Ferrari engines are not helping the teams this year.
Yeah, and behind Magnussen is Pietro Fittipaldi, who filled in for the injured Romain Grosjean.
Yeah.
19th place, so Haas finished 9th in the World Constructors Championship.
With 3 points.
3 points in 2 races.
Yeah, they have 1 point from Magnussen. The other 2 points were from Grosjean. And
last place, Sergio Perez, who had a task in hand to help finish the 2020 season on a high note after winning the Sakir Grand Prix out on lap 8. Motor. Final start for Checo at Racing Point, and the final start with the lineage going back to his time at Force India.
Yep. He did finish. He did get 4th in the points. Even Ricardo still finished 6 points behind in 5th. So Perez still got 4th in points behind both Mercedes drivers and the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, which is good for Perez. They got 4th in points.
Yeah. Just unfortunate for a driver like Perez to perform so well over the years and have a question mark next to where 2020 will be for.
Because I remember me and you watching the race yesterday. We saw Perez making overtakes at one point. Like, he got up to 15th, and then the engine lets go. Ugh.
Very similar to what happened in Bahrain when Perez
podium
to a podium possibly in the final 3 laps.
And then
gave way.
Yeah, and that gave Albon the podium at the Bahrain Grand Prix. I just remember that. It was so much heartbreak for Sergio.
Right, and honestly, the Bahrain Grand Prix, I think, was the difference maker between winning and losing the Constructors' Championship. If Sheldon had that crash on the restart, or Perez not pull up almost during a podium, and then follow that with the win. Same last week for the Sakir Grand Prix, and then
because
misfortunes like yesterday wouldn't have costed them 3rd in the Constructors, but.
Yeah, it's basically if Bahrain would have been like a normal race, if Stroll didn't get hit by Kvyat on lap 2 and flip over his car, or Perez with 3 laps to go with a blown motor, if that would have not happened, they would have probably got 3rd in the points because they were still, even with the point penalty, remember the point penalty they got? People said, they're going to finish. They're going to be one of the lowest teams in points. Even with a 15-point penalty, they finished 4th in Constructors.
So the final championship standings in Formula 1, Lewis Hamilton is World Drivers' Championship, 6 with Mercedes. 11 wins.
Oh, my.
Podiums. With that said, Lewis Hamilton does not break his record for most wins in a season at 11. That has been achieved 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. 14 podiums for Hamilton and 347 points. He clinched the Drivers' Championship with 3 races to go at Turkey. Valtteri Bottas won the battle against Max Verstappen for 2nd in the World Drivers' Championship. With 223 points. Verstappen 3rd in the World Drivers' Championship with 214 points. Both drivers share 2 wins and 11 podiums, by the way. I'm not making that up.
I'm still wondering what. So interesting that people were wondering, about how, I was looking, the gap between Bottas and Hamilton this year, people said, under 100 points. It was over 100 points. I calculated 124 points. Yeah, 347 points to 223. That's 124 points. That is a big gap. So basically, Lewis just, after, he had the penalty in the first Austrian Grand Prix, then he won the Styrian Grand Prix. He's like, goodbye, I'm going to take the points lead away. And he literally, most of the season, just pulled away with the point lead and waving goodbye to everybody else in the back. Basically, it looked like it. Yeah.
So the big three finished 1, 2, and 3 as they should. Fourth place was a battle for fourth place honors in the World Drivers' Championship. In the end, it was Sergio Perez, despite the retirement.
Yep.
Checo, a win and 2 podiums.
Yep.
Brilliant. Someone sign him next year, please. Fifth place, Daniel Ricciardo. 2 podiums. First time that Ricciardo stood on the podium since his win at the Monaco Grand Prix, driving for Red Bull in 2018. Ricciardo, of course, switching to McLaren, not Haas.
I was about to say, if Ricciardo wants to race for Haas, I don't think he wants to race for Haas. I feel like McLaren would be a better option than Haas.
I don't know what I'm thinking. Ricciardo, 5th place in the World Drivers' Championship, not bad, especially when it comes down to Renault, not Red Bull, Renault struggling last year. Just they were outperformed. Bringing back Ocon was a big deal for Renault, and maybe Ricciardo needed that veteran experience as a teammate. Not taking anything away from Hulkenberg, but at least Ocon's back in F1.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz, 6th place in the Drivers' Championship, 1 podium, that being the 2nd place finish in the Italian Grand Prix.
Sainz.
Sainz.
I thought you were talking about Leclerc. I'm like, he didn't get 2nd in the Italian. Yeah, Sainz. Yeah, I remember that.
Albon 7th. Now, Albon, has he underperformed in Red Bull equipment?
It's just
question.
It's just been like, it's like there's some races where they didn't focus too much on him. It's like they are focusing on one driver sometimes. It's like almost when most of the time before Red Bull were focusing on Vettel instead of Mark Webber. It's like stuff like that, which is like, don't focus on one driver. That's not how you're going to win constructors championships. No, and people are wondering, why is Mercedes walking away with constructor titles? You need both drivers have to get points for that, not just one driver. It's not just Hamilton. Example, it's not just Hamilton getting all the points for the constructors. Bottas is getting points too. Yeah.
Future up in the air for Albon. I think he's a great driver. There's potential for Albon.
There's a new rumor of him becoming a reserve driver for Red Bull. That's a new rumor that's spiraling. I don't know who's going to be in the Red Bull seat. It's still unknown.
Only time will tell. Leclerc did everything he could do to finish 8th in the World Drivers' Championship and score 2 podiums, which were tough.
Yeah.
And perhaps one of the weakest Ferrari cars in a Grand Prix.
Oh my, yeah, those. Nobody expected Ferrari to be that slow, including like I remember Christian and Toto during preseason testing. They were shocked at how slow Ferrari was, because Mercedes built that OP car to beat Ferrari because they thought Ferrari was going to have a good car. They showed up with one of the worst cars they ever built.
What the future will hold. I mean, there's one more year with the current turbo hybrid era for the new configurations.
I just don't know.
2022.
We'll just see if they could have a good engine this year. A good car also. Like, they just got to have Yeah, because last year you saw how much drag the car had. You saw they kept losing. Like you saw McLarens and AlphaTauris passing them on the street like nothing. It's like, okay, you got to get speed in the car.
Maybe a new era be on the horizon for Ferrari, but no one expected Vettel to not at least win one world championship with Ferrari. Those were the expectations. Vettel do exactly what Schumacher did. Schumacher, of course, was just in another planet Ferrari.
Yeah, the F2004, that was one of the OPS cars at the time, and that's now the W11 has that record now, but like...
The 11 couldn't hold a finger to the F2004.
Like, right now, it's just like, Ferrari was just struggling, and also, they had bad calls sometimes, like, doing their weird strategies, which it's like, what? It's like, they've done so many weird things, costing them championships to Mercedes.
And I don't want people thinking Vettel's time was wasted or something in Ferrari. He didn't waste any time in Ferrari. The expectations were high. Alonso, how many barriers were ahead of Alonso when he raced Ferrari? Thousands of them.
Yeah.
He drove one of the worst cars on the grid and prevailed with him. That's how Alonso made accomplishments in racing. Proving everybody wrong and almost won the world championship multiple times.
Yeah, like Ferrari just like it's like that's just they just always did these weird pit calls. Like
not one thing, it's another.
They've done too many weird things. It's their engine that lets go. Weird strategies. The car is so bad. It's like there's too many different things happening for them.
Lando Norris 9th in the World Drivers' Championship is actually an understatement to how well he's performed as a sophomore driver in F1.
Yeah.
The long-term future for a driver like Lando Norris, a well-liked fan favorite, everyone can relate to Lando Norris.
Yeah.
He's the person that you can have a beer with.
Yeah.
At the same time, play Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo for hours. His Twitch streams and everything can relate to the next generation of F1 fans.
Yeah, it's like
and being a British driver for a British constructor. Hamilton when he started.
Like it's so like it's like people like I remember Lando remember the Eiffel Grand Prix when something broke on his car. Remember what he did? He walked up out of the car, he sat on that chair. He sat on that lawn chair. It's like so interesting, like stuff like that. Like most drivers wouldn't do that. Lando is the type to just find a chair there.
But 9th place in the World Drivers' Championship. If there's a most improved driver award, I would give it to Lando Norris. Absolutely.
Yeah.
First career podium at the opening race at Austria.
Yep.
10th place, Pierre Gasly, who shocked the world.
Oh, yeah.
Another Monza miracle. Shades of Vettel in 2008.
Pierre Gasly. Like, I remember people were mocking him at Red Bull last year, but the thing is, he was not the best at Red Bull, but he's so good at AlphaTauri, which is a weaker team than Red Bull. He's just like really performs like at a weaker team. Like,
but if you get demoted, which essentially happened to Gasly, then the pressure to perform is greater. Than even being on the Red Bull team with the better equipment
Yeah, because it was like AlphaTauri's season was quite interesting. Like Pierre's season was like he got 10th in points, which is really impressive because usually you don't expect a driver from that team to finish 10th in points. Usually you expect 13th, 14th, but P10 in points is a really good place to finish in points.
Absolutely. Lance Stroll, 11th in the World Drivers' Championship. He did pick up 2 podiums, which were third-place finishes at the Italian Grand Prix and the Sakir Grand Prix, career best finish for each race.
And also, people are wondering why he get 11th. Also, there was some. Remember the races? Remember from Mugello to what race was till what was
after Mugello? Was that Sochi?
No, it was Mugello. The first race. Remember when he crashed out Mugello?
Yeah.
That's the first race. Remember that stretch started at Mugello till for a couple rounds didn't get points. That's what hurt him to get 11th in points because there was a stretch where he didn't get points. Plus the Eiffel Grand Prix at Nürburgring, he caught COVID and was replaced by Hulkenberg. It's like he just had stuff going on. Like many races without points really hurt him to get a top 10 in points.
Right. In fact, he lost the tie against Gasly.
Yep.
75 points each. 12th place, Esteban Ocon. Ocon's first year back in F1.
Yeah. Yeah, he just had to relearn the cars.
First podium.
Yeah, he got a second place at the Sakir Grand Prix for Renault, which Esteban just has to start. Like next year, he's going to be learning some tracks. Like
he'll be paired with Alonso.
Yeah,
top world champion.
Another thing that's Ocon will have to relearn is the tracks that he was supposed to go last year. Like example, Australia race 1. Like tracks that we were supposed to go to this year that weren't on the calendar, he'll have to learn those tracks again.
So will the rest of the grid.
Not all of them. Like, I mean the drivers that hasn't raced in because Ocon's last start at Australia was in 2018. Like he has to relearn the track. Alonso will have to relearn it, but like Lewis Hamilton, he's raced quite recently there compared to Ocon. Like there's just drivers that hasn't raced at Australia for like many years, like Ocon and Alonso. They just have to relearn this to drive the circuit in their F1 cars.
I think it's a very mature pair of drivers too.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso, who has raced across generations in F1.
Yeah.
Alonso was the man who put a stop to Schumacher's dominance in 2005 and 2006.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And then in 2007, he ran for McLaren. And then 2008, moved back to Renault for 08, 09.
Right. Until the controversy happened, and then he moved to Ferrari, which was seemingly was going to be another championship-winning pair, possibly.
And then he moved to McLaren in 2015.
People thought that was going to be no, it wasn't.
2015 was the worst year for McLaren. The Honda engines were bad. 2016 was better than 2015, but still bad. 2017 was
mind you, he was paired with Jenson Button for those 2 years. 2 world champions. 3 combined world championships, and they just seemed to have lost touch, of course, with a car that wouldn't cooperate.
And people forget that Alonso did not run every race. There was one race he actually didn't run in 2016. Bahrain was run by Van Dorn in the 47.
But then Stoffel drove because Alonso wasn't medically cleared after the crash at Melbourne.
Yeah, then Van Dorn was paired for 2017-2018 with Alonso, which McLaren 2017 they
I think McLaren cleaned up all the
but they still had
the filter that happened in the 2010s.
But they still had the Honda engines in 2017. Right. Well, one example, Alonso at the Spanish Grand Prix, is like, the engine feels good, much slower than before, which is kind of bad when you say the engine's worse than before. 2018 was not the best for McLaren either.
But that was the first year after ditching Honda powers because it just couldn't work together.
Yeah.
Renault and McLaren are a very good pair.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's come to an end, but I think it will propel McLaren enough to get back on that playing field where they can secure victories and podiums.
But the victories thing is going to be
that's tough.
With their main constructor, Mercedes, with their own Mercedes team. That team, I remember when Mercedes, they used to not be contending for wins like this. When 2014 hit, that's when they started winning more and more.
Right, because they were beyond prepared compared to the rest of the constructors for the turbo hybrid era.
Yeah, and now Mercedes is just cruising away, winning races, and people are like, oh, another F1 race, time to go to bed. It's like, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make a difference. That's the same kind of mentality happened with that little 112 races straight.
Yeah, it's like
2013 for his fourth consecutive World Drivers' Championship. Michael Schumacher.
So like people kept saying that people said Lewis.
Let me think about Lewis Hamilton. Actually, finish what you're saying about Hamilton.
People are saying Lewis Hamilton's dominance is more boring than Vettel's dominance. I'm like, Vettel lapped so many cars in a race that people approved that Vettel was allowed to dominate, but people are like, no, Hamilton, stop dominating. But nobody said that about Vettel. It's like,
oh, they did.
But some Lewis haters said that Vettel was allowed to dominate races, but not.
I'm a Vettel fan, and I'm not going to deny the amount of Vettel haters out there who got sick and tired of watching that Red Bull finish first in a Grand Prix.
Oh yeah, but after his
the discussions in 2014 weren't as much of Mercedes being dominant as they were of what happened to Vettel.
Yeah, because 2014, Ricciardo actually beat Vettel in points.
Right. And then Vettel won it all. He didn't win a single race.
No, he didn't do too well in 2014. I know Ricciardo did win. Yeah, yes. Ricciardo got his first career win at the Canadian Grand Prix. Yeah, like.
So let's move down the order in the Drivers' Championship. We went on and on about constructors. Back to the World Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel, we were just discussing him and the future of Vettel. I think a new era is about to begin for Vettel. I don't know if he will become the world champion that he was 10 years ago.
I
hope he will rebound some fashion, maybe a better car, possibly.
I don't know how the car is going to be. If they get, what are they going are they going to get the W11, like put elements for the W11, and then Mercedes rocks up with the W12, which is more dominant? I don't know what racing, or now Aston Martin.
Aston Martin F1.
I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to have a good car. People, it's like when they rocked up with the W10 from last year at Barcelona this year, people are like that. People even noticed the car looked like 2019 Mercedes.
Exactly like the old Mercedes.
Yeah.
Dan Kvyat 14th in the World Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
A little surprised by Kvyat's underperformance, but at the same time, his future is still in the air.
But I heard that Kvyat in an interview, he was saying about AlphaTauri is taking too long when announcing Tsunoda, because even Kvyat in his head knows that Tsunoda is most likely taking a seat, and he really wants AlphaTauri to announce Tsunoda in the car.
Yeah, like get that over with.
Yeah, he's still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah. Nico Hulkenberg ran
3 races.
3 races, actually 3 entries in 2 races, but enough to score 10 points. And he's in the question for silly season. There are talks about where could Hulkenberg go. He's proven himself enough to be in a Formula One ride at this point. Kimi Räikkönen 16th with only 4 points. Antonio Giovinazzi 4 points.
Yeah.
Russell 3 points. Those 3 points were scored in that secure Grand Prix when he drove for Mercedes.
So those points actually went to Mercedes, not Williams, because George was in the Mercedes. Usually you see normally you would see 2 car numbers for different teams, but for extra entries, there's like Mercedes example, they have 3 cars this year, like entered. They entered 3 cars. Same thing with Racing Point and Haas and Williams. They all had 3 cars at one point of the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Romain Grosjean, the final driver, the 19th and final driver to score a point in the World Championship this year with 1 point.
No, we got 2.
2 points. I meant Kevin Magnussen, his teammate.
1 point.
They both won't be in F1 for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Nicholas Latifi ran all the races, but scored no points. He finished 21st in the standings, and the 2 other drivers, Pietro Fittipaldi and Jack Aiken, 22nd and 23rd, no points as well.
Yeah.
In the World Constructors Championship,
Mercedes,
of course, they won 7th consecutive championship. They are undefeated in the turbo hybrid era. Don't have to say more. 13 wins. 13 out of the 17 Grand Prix were won by Mercedes. 11 from Hamilton, 2 from Bottas. 573 points in total.
Red Bull finished second.
319 points, 2 wins from Verstappen.
Yeah, they were 254 points was the gap this year. People keep complaining, Mercedes, stop dominating, bring the worst car. I'm like, they're not going to bring the worst car. They want to win, so they're bringing the best car.
McLaren won the war for 3rd despite going winless. They had 202 points.
Yep.
Racing Point entered the final round 10 points above McLaren, 195 points. 4th place in the World Constructors Championship as they rebrand into Aston Martin F1 in the offseason. Renault, 0 wins, 181 points. 5th in the World Constructors Championship. Ferrari went winless for the first time since 2016. They finished 6th in the World Constructors Championship. Ferrari, worst finish in the World Constructors Championship since 1980. Shows you how rare a season like this really was for the Maranello powerhouse.
Yeah, and
AlphaTauri 7th.
Yeah.
1 win, 107 points for AlphaTauri. Alfa Romeo 8 points. Haas F1 3 points, and Williams scored no points. Must I say,
oh my gosh,
the expectations were fulfilled by some,
what?
Not all. Lewis Hamilton picked up the pole trophy, the award that was introduced in 2014 for driver with the most poles in a season. Last year it was Charles Leclerc, but Hamilton with 10 poles in 2020 picked up his 5th pole trophy. As far as support series, Mick Schumacher won F2.
I'm so confused. I didn't even know this. In one race, Williams had a fastest lap in a race, I guess. I don't remember what race, but they have one fastest.
Be in 2020. No.
It says 2020 season, one fastest lap. Don't know what race it came from, but they had a fastest lap somehow. Their best finish, 11th, 4 times. Yeah, they finished 11 4 different times. Haas's best finish, 9th with Grosjean. They did not have any fastest laps. Alfa Romeo had 0 fastest laps. 3 9th-place finishes was their season, basically. AlphaTauri, 0 fast laps. Their highest finish, 1st. Ferrari's highest finish, 2nd, 1 time, with 0 fastest laps. Renault, they had 2 fastest laps, with a best finish of 2nd. Racing Point, best finish of 1st, 1 pole. Interesting stats. McLaren, 1 second-place finish with 3 fastest laps in the race. Red Bull, 2 wins, 1 pole, 3 fastest laps. And now we're at Mercedes. 13 wins, 15 pole positions, and 8 fastest laps. Yeah, 13 wins and 15 poles. So, yeah, Mercedes was the only team with double digits.
Yeah. Right. No undefeated season yet. The closest that was, I think, it was McLaren in 1988 when they were 1 win shy of achieving that. So the support series was Mick Schumacher for Prema Racing in the Formula 2 Championship. Prema did win the team's championship as Mick Schumacher advances into Formula 1 next year, winning the F2 Championship. Formula 3, Oscar Piastri, Australian driver, won the 2020 championship with Prema Racing, who also won the team's championship in Formula 3. Piastri will drive for Prema in F2 next year. Porsche Super Cup, the one-make series for Porsche, won by Dutch driver Larry ten Voort. He drove for Team GP Elite, and the team's championship went to BWT Lechner Racing. Unfortunately, there was sad news this week when Walter Lechner, the owner of the Lechner Racing team that has been around for 45 years, based in Austria, he died at 71 this week. Walter Lechner did enter teams this week and this year, and it's just a very sad story, but that came out this week. But yeah, BWT Lechner Racing did win the team's championship in Porsche Super Cup this year. Speaking of sports cars, he did have one more race in the Intercontinental GT Challenge for the 9 hours of Kyalami in South Africa, the 4th and final round of the season. Championship possibly for Porsche drivers, but that wasn't the case. Only 12 cars showed up into the event to compete for the overall win, and torrential rain was the ultimate decider towards the end. Yeah, I'm actually going to need the results there.
I got fooled by F1. Williams did not get a fastest lap.
Reference.
No, on F1 app, they counted Russell's fastest lap for Mercedes as Williams. I don't know why. I'm like F1. You did realize George was in a Mercedes, not a Williams in that event. I guess they got confused.
Yeah, so the Kyalami 9-hour race on Saturday marked the end of the 2020 Intercontinental GT Challenge, dominated by the NS6 Honda, won by BMW.
My pick, the 34 Walkinhorst car. I don't know. I'm just like, I'll pick the 34. Usually when I pick cars that they usually don't win. They actually
won this time.
Yeah.
So yes, drivers Sheldon van der Linde, Nicky Catsburg, and Augusto Farfus won.
Yep.
The 34 Walkinhorst Motorsport BMW.
Yeah.
After 277 laps.
Wow. 2/10.
Only the top 5 finished on the lead lap.
Yeah, I see 0.2 of a second back. 32 Audi Sport Team WRT of Mirko Bertolotti Charles Wirtz and Frederick Vervish finished second in their Audi R8. Third, the number 12 GPX Racing, driven by Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet, and Mathieu Jaminet in their Porsche 911, finished third. Team Honda Racing. They dominated.
That team, they had it in the bag.
But
they pitted a bad call to pit under torrential rain. They expected safety car. Didn't come out. The safety car actually was called.
Yeah.
They pitted, but
to
pit early, expecting others to pit, replace tires.
So it was
no podium at all.
Yeah, they finished fourth with Mario Farnbacher driving at the time, with Bertrand Baguette and Ranger van der Zand. And the last car on the lead lap, the number 44 Audi Sport Team Car Collection in their Audi R8, driven by Christopher Haase, Mattia Drudi, and Patrick Niederhauser, was the final car on the lead lap. Then in sixth, the first car one lap behind the field, was the number 35 Walkinhorst Motorsport entry, driven by David Pittard, Nicholas Yellowly, and Martin Tomaszek, a lap behind the 34. Then you have Dynamic Motorsports Porsche, driven by Lawrence Van Torn, Kevin Estre, and Earl Bamber, finished a lap behind the field in seventh. Then the Audi number 31, driven by Dries Van Tor, Marcus Winkelhock, and Kelvin Vanderlyn, finished eighth, 2 laps behind. Then it's the 8 Bentley, driven by Alex Buncombe, Oliver Jarvis, and Sam Morris, 3 laps behind. Then Lechner Racing finished P10 with drivers Dylan Pereira, Sol Hack, and Andre Bizout finished 6 laps behind. And the final car that was classified was the number 45 Car Collection Audi, driven by Dennis Marshall, Marin Leachman, and Milan Donche, finished 11 laps behind. And the last car in the race that was not classified was the number 7 Bentley, driven by Maxim Soulet, Jules Gounon, and Jordan Pepper. They didn't finish the race. They retired on lap 63 of the event.
Hey, Danny, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I'm good.
Great. So the 9 hours of Kyalami was just, it was torrential rain at the end. I mean, lightning in the area. The entire final half hour was under a full course yellow or safety car condition.
Yeah.
And that's how Walkinhorst, number 34, ended up with the win. And the Drivers' Championship entering the race was Lawrence Van Toor and Earl Bamber. Unfortunately, the two drivers faltered, finishing 7th in the race, needing to score enough points. That wasn't the situation. And Nicky Catsburg and Augusto Farfus end up winning the Drivers' Championship. However, Porsche did win the Manufacturers' Cup. The Drivers' Championship, so Farfus and Catsburg won 5 points ahead of the 3 Porsche drivers, Matt Campbell, Mathieu Jaminet, and Patrick Pilet, 45 points for the trio. Earl Bamber, Lawrence Van Toor, and with 37 points in third. Fourth place was Frederick Versvich with 36 points. And fifth and sixth were the two NSX drivers, Rainer van der Zand and Mario Farnbacher, 31 points. The Manufacturers' Trophy did go to Porsche with 100 points. Completely 100 points. BMW second, 76 points. Audi Sport third with 74. Mercedes AMG fourth with 50 points. Honda NSX finished in fifth with 37 points. Bentley, in their last season as a factory supporting manufacturer, well, with a factory supporting team, that is, 33 points. The team that won not the Dubai 24, the Bathurst 12 hours.
I was about to say and also that Dubai 24 was not 24 hours. That 7 hours of Dubai should have been called, but like, yeah, they won. I remember that Bathurst 12 hours. I remember nobody expected Bentley to win it.
Yeah, that was unexpected. It still shocked a lot of people.
Yep.
But they did finish 6th in the Manufacturers' Cup. Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Lamborghini didn't run all 4 races, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So 9 manufacturers total in the GT Challenge. A season greatly affected by COVID-19.
Yep.
Speaking of restrictions, there's some great news for the land down under.
Yep.
Danny, you tell us.
So, I just did an article just popped up on my timeline saying that Australia and New Zealand plan to ease travel restrictions. So, from when I clicked on my timeline, the first article that came up was BBC News. So it says New Zealand eases all COVID restrictions and is now virus free. So
wow.
Now the question now is, what does that do, or how does that come into play with the Supercar Series? Can the Auckland Super Sprint go ahead or not?
That's tough.
Yeah.
Because already we saw the Adelaide 500 given a no-no by government because of fundings and just the threat of the virus hitting South Australia again. Of course, the traditional Adelaide 500 being round 1 of the season since 1999 when it began. So the confirmed races that are wiped off the schedule, that could be a good sign for them returning in 2022.
But like
Auckland, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel for Auckland.
Yes, most definitely.
Like I've been seeing that like playing.
But we have to keep an eye out on will the restrictions come back again and mess everything up.
Yeah, that's the thing, because remember what's coming up. The holidays. Christmas is coming up. If people didn't realize, yes, Christmas is coming up in 11 days. We also have New Year's right after that. So, yeah, that's the thing. Because, like, there's some areas where I live, like, we have, in my area, we have 7 zones in different parts of the province. I'm in a zone that's less restrictions than one of the zones that had an outbreak there in yellow, which is more, not yellow, orange. I'm in a yellow state, so I have to still wear a mask everywhere. Or the police can fine you, so I'm not one of those people that I have to respect the guidelines. I don't want to get fined like almost $300. I don't want to pay a fine right now.
Yeah, that will be a bad day.
Yeah. So holidays are coming up. Hopefully people just respect the guidelines over there to make sure no more cases come up, because people are traveling different places, and hopefully just they stay safe over there.
Australia had perhaps the toughest international barriers when it comes to traveling during this time. If you notice the racing in supercars this year, social distancing was afterthought. There are AMAX and the Bathurst 1000, just with maybe lesser crowd and lesser availability for things like paddock passes, garage passes, as they call it here in the States.
Yeah.
Press passes, they were limited, but it seemed like a different kind of style. Now, rugby matches and the Australian rules football, they've held games with over 20,000 people on a regular basis. By now, it's a norm for them.
Yeah,
but the travel restrictions being so tough resulted in the 12 hours of Bathurst being canceled for 2021.
Yeah.
The future seems bright, but I think everyone needs to slow down.
Yeah.
And let some time pass. We'll be there.
Yeah, I know people are like 2021, come on, but it's like we don't know how 2021 could be. We're only in 2020.
Very unpredictable right now.
Yeah, nobody expected 2020 to be bad. Everybody expected, it's going to be normal. It's like, no, it was not too normal. At first, it started normal. It started decent, kind of, the first couple of weeks. And then there was, end of January, that's where it started getting bad.
Horrible. Yeah, that really bad.
And then February had some stuff going on. Then March, then there's the lockdown there, starting in March. And then, 2020 was a crazy year.
Yeah, hindsight 2020, that's exactly in the title. Speaking of which, this is the end of motorsports in 2028. Now, I know there's Super Formula,
that's
one more race.
Well, that championship battle, it's a tied for the points lead heading into the final race at Fuji, which tied, usually you don't hear that the points lead is tied. Yes, the top two are tied in points, which is just impressive. That series, I know that people are like, it's just a feeder series. It's basically the Japanese Formula 2. It's basically F2, but in Japan. But they have a lot of skilled drivers in that series. Like, they have a good roster of drivers, like, that have really a lot of potential for F1, which is, that series.
Cassidy's a superstar.
One of them, Nick Cassidy's one of them. He was last year's champ. He's currently fourth in points. He still has a shot at the championship this year. He's fourth in points, only 9 points behind the top two, which those top two are tied. But it is interestingly close, because I usually put the points after each race, but I haven't followed much Super Formula until I saw I'm like, I'll write the point before Fuji. I check, it's like tied for the points lead. That's just nobody expects that.
Right. And think about New Zealand fans. They've been waiting a long time to see anybody replicate the success that Denny Hulme had when he won the 1967 World Championship. The only, let's not forget Bruce McLaren.
Oh, he was
Bruce McLaren.
Yeah.
Yeah, which?
No, he didn't win a World Championship, but he also created the greatest powerhouse.
Yeah.
Formula One, McLaren. One of the greatest.
In motorsports in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder if people have been wondering, what if Bruce McLaren was still alive in 2020? How would McLaren look like?
That is honestly true, because unfortunately, in 1970, death was just a part of motorsport, and you would have to accept it, and you would have to accept that reality. Bruce McLaren,
he
was only 32.
Yeah.
So the off season in motorsport is here. In general,
I'm so bad with math. I had to calculate how old Bruce McLaren would be. He would be 8. But do you want to know how old he would be in 2020? He would be 83. He's born in 1937. Yeah. He would be 83 if he was still here in 2020.
So in the off season, of course, a few weeks from now, we'll see the return of Motorsport, the Dakar Rally 2021 on the 3rd of January. The 14th through 16th this year, we'll have the Dubai 24 Hours. On the 16th to 17th, the Formula E Championship returns with the Santiago E Prix scheduled in Chile.
You also...
January 11th through 16th, the whole week, Chili Bowl Nationals for 2021.
The entries will start being out at the end of this month. Hopefully, if...
hundreds of them.
But people that don't have MAV TV... Like, I don't know if Rev TV, which the MAV TV Canada rebrand, I don't know if they're going to be airing it this year. Hopefully somebody streams it, because nice Twitch streamers, because it's hard for people to. And then after later in January, there's also will be the Rolex 24 later that month in January.
By the way, the 24 Hours of Daytona will have a 100-minute qualifying round for the first time. Then the week preceding the Rolex 24, a week before the 30th and 31st of January. If you're a fan of two-wheel racing, the AMA Supercross Championship, first 3 rounds, the 16th, 19th, and 23rd of January, all take place at Houston, Texas. Speaking of the 24 Hours of Dubai, I forgot to mention there will be an exhibition 6-hour race on the week after the Dubai 24 for teams that are still in the facility. That race, I believe, is actually going to be held at Yas Marina Circuit.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Right. If they choose to stay, which could be interesting. That will also be on the same weekend as the qualifying race for the 24 Hours of Daytona. And then after that, the 30th and 31st of January.
Hopefully, 2021, hopefully Discovery Velocity has their free preview earlier than last year. 2020, they had it in July. Hopefully they do it, or because I'm not paying $12.95 extra for that one channel. It's just they want you to pay money for this channel.
It's a rip.
Also, if people didn't realize, in the past week, recently, NASCAR announced their TV deals, like TV schedules, for the Cup, Xfinity, and trucks, which you should know by now. There's not all races are on Fox. No, there's starts off with FS1 for the first 2 rounds. By 2 rounds, I mean the races that are the non-points races, the Clash and the Clash and the Duels are on FS1 with the Daytona 500, the Daytona Road Course, Homestead, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Atlanta, and Bristol. Those couple races are all on Fox. First points race, FS1, would be Martinsville on April 10th. Then we have Richmond and Talladega on Fox. Kansas is on FS1. Like couple races a row, like Darlington and then Dover and Coda. Yes, Coda's on FS1. But then the Coke 600's on Fox. Sonoma and the All-Star, obviously, that's on FS1, which the All-Star's on a Sunday this year.
Hopefully Sonoma happens in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
And then Nashville, NBCSN kicks off their broadcast with Nashville and both Pocono races. Yes, Pocono doubleheaders back.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. And then Road America is the first race on NBC. And then,
that would be very interesting to see.
First time since 1954.
I am very looking forward to watching that race.
Then you have the 400-mile race at Atlanta. which is going to be 260 laps. Yes, there's 2 Atlanta races in July.
That's
I know.
Atlanta 400 race.
Yeah, 400 miles.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hot day.
Yeah, in July, and then New Hampshire's still the same. Then they have an off week, 2 off weeks because the Olympics. They return on the 8th at Watkins Glen. Then you have basically Indy Road Course on NBC, Michigan, and then the Coke Zero 400 ends off the regular season. Yeah, it's basically Xfinity. People are complaining about the truck and Xfinity TV deals with Fox. All the races for Xfinity are on FS1 except Talladega's on Fox, which is kind of odd. Why? I don't know why only Talladega could be on Fox according
Views.
Other races, FS1, which is interesting, NBC, NBCSN, while because the Olympics are going
Stanley
on.
Cup playoffs would probably be around that time. Well,
Yeah.
actually, no. Hopefully, the Stanley Cup playoffs will be over by June.
Watkins Glen for Xfinity will not be on NBC or NBCSN. It's going to be on CNBC because the Olympics are going on.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's still NBC, NBCSN for the second half. The trucks, no races on Fox. All Fox Sports 1 from Daytona all the way to Phoenix. I forgot
Contract that began in 2003, still active today. All races on the Fox family of networks.
Which the truck series, I know that people don't like Michael Waltrip in them, but
I think Michael Waltrip was a good commentator.
Yeah.
I know people kind of get annoyed by it, but at least that Fox has good camera angles. Sometimes
about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember ESPN? Once ESPN was filming something else, sometimes ESPN, instead of focusing on the track, they would focus on the infield of fans. Once they were focusing on someone with a motorized couch in the infield at Chicago, I'm like, I guess you're more interested in a motorized couch than what's going on the track.
Oh, that's too bad because Chicago won't.
Oh yeah,
their future is in jeopardy, unfortunately. More races that will happen during the next month or so. We mentioned about the 24 Hours of Daytona. The Asian Le Mans Series.
Oh yeah.
Will only run in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
They call it the 16 Hours of Dubai. 4-hour races, which make up to 16 hours total.
Yep.
The first 2 races will be on a doubleheader, February 4th through 6th. They changed the dates to not clash with the Rolex 24.
And then
they pushed the week after.
And then the 2 other ones, TBA dates that are unknown for now.
The 21st and 24th, I forgot to mention the Rally Monte Carlo. Classic rally race that has snowy conditions.
Oh yeah, I've raced them there.
Rally Championship.
I've driven that on WRC6, and I'm just bad. I'm just bad at rally on video games. I'm just always end up hitting a tree. I always end up off the track. Yeah, I'm not good at rally games.
Yep. And other news, Formula One. So we mentioned Haas F1 has a new lineup next year consisting of F2 champion Mick Schumacher and 5th place in that same championship, Nikita Mazepin, a Russian driver who this week was under fire by the press and the media, as well as his fellow drivers, for a controversial video, a little clip that was posted on his Instagram story. Raised a lot of eyebrows and tension between fans on questions such as whether he should race in F1 next year. Is this a driver worth being in Formula One? Haas F1 did make a statement condemning the behavior by Mazepin. We'll have to see where this goes. Personally, I'm not a fan at all of the material posted by Mazepin, the behavior of the driver. I do not support what he did. Personally, I think if you're going to race in Formula One, there needs to be a higher standard for your off-track life. As much as you behave on the track, you should be held to that same standard off the track. Well, Mick Schumacher, Mick Schumacher seems to be a very humble driver, aggressive like Michael, of course. But what does this mean for Haas F1? What does this mean for Nikita Mazepin? Only time will tell. There are other drivers in the Ferrari Driver Academy, the FDA, that, of course, Haas picked their drivers from as they use Ferrari engines. Drivers such as Callum Ilott, Robert Schwartzman.
Also, the thing about that, what about do the other drivers from the FDA have what Mazepin has? The money. Mazepin does have a lot of money compared to some of these drivers. That's the thing. Haas wanted a pay driver. They needed one. They said they needed some sponsors because right now their only thing that are on their cars is their Haas decal because of Rich Energy, their company that company.
What a fiasco that was.
Yeah, they were not a good company. No, they're like Haas just had they couldn't find a sponsor, which do you want to know what's kind of interesting? That nobody knew until I found out a couple days ago. Nikita Mazepin's father was one of the people trying to buy the Force India team. At first, it was between him, Rich Energy, that company, and Lance Stroll's father.
Lawrence Stroll.
Yeah, and then there was I guess that for some random reason, Mazepin's father was trying to sue Lawrence Stroll, which that didn't work at all. And then that was they wanted
Dmitry Mazepin, by the Forbes magazine, as part of Russia's 100 wealthiest businessmen 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Money talks.
Yeah.
And I hope Nikita Mazepin learns this lesson one way or another.
It's also people just think that Mazepin only has money. I know he has talent.
He's a pretty solid driver in Formula 2. I won't take anything away from that.
But people kept saying that he almost people are just dumb on the internet. People said when he pushed Drogovic off the track, he tried to kill him, which I'm like, you're exaggerating. Those people were exaggerating because they like to exaggerate everything.
Well, you're also reading from the worst social media platform in existence called Twitter.
No, I was reading off Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yeah, and F1 groups. Yeah, a lot of
like trolling the one.
Different, yeah, but it's like it's also like interesting about.
They're funny.
I know that F2, at least they have some drivers confirmed again, like Drogovic.
Going back to Haas F1, what about Mick Schumacher? What are the expectations for Mick Schumacher?
I'm just expecting trying to get points, trying to learn the F1 cars, basically trying to get points because Haas's cars are not fast. Somebody tried telling me that Mick Schumacher is going to have 3 wins next year. I'm like, oh, no.
That's a little bit too soon.
And also, Haas is not the best team. It's not Ferrari. And
but if you put a good driver like Mick Schumacher, who is consistent, not necessarily having to win in his rookie year in Formula One.
Yeah,
I think he could get some points in the the constructors championship. Haas will be in contention for for the constructors championship.
Yeah, like
I could see them reach about 7th or 6th, possibly, depending on the consistency.
Most definitely 6th place for sure.
Hopefully their car is not bad compared to this year. Their car was so slow this year, but I meant all the Ferrari cars had their engines were just. And somebody tried telling me that Mick Schumacher will win the next 7 championships in a row. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's way big.
And so will Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 2000s and 2010s. How'd that go?
Like it's like that one person that I saw on Motorsports shit posting. Remember that Ian screenshotted the person that about Dale Jr.'s concussion in 2002?
Yeah, let's not.
Oh, like stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, it's like people think that Mick's gonna do like Michael, but it's like Mick is Mick, Michael is Michael. They're two different people. They're not the same person. It's like a rookie in an F1 season. You're not supposed to go dominate.
There are traits that from Michael that definitely you can see Mick is driving, but
it's like the thing is, Haas F1 is not. It's not the level of Mercedes and Red Bull. They're just towards where Alfa Romeo is in the back right now.
Yeah. In other news, unfortunately, just terrible, but Brock Skyline, the portion of the Mount Panorama circuit where the Bathurst 1000 is held, was vandalized.
Oh.
Vandalized with graffiti. An area that was named after the legendary Peter Brock.
Oh my goodness.
It's horrible, dude.
Yeah, like I don't respect people that do that. Like you don't vandalize things. Like it's not your property. Like I've seen people vandalize different things that's not theirs. I'm like,
including the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like if you want to vandalize something, vandalize your own home.
Yeah,
but I know
that. Yeah, then you can. Then you'll see what happens when people destroy someone else's property. That is exactly.
Yeah,
it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Other than that, Juan Pablo Montoya, 2-time Indy 500 champion, will attempt a run for his third 500.
Yep.
Driving Aero McLaren SP in the 2021 Indy 500. Montoya won the Indy 500 in his first ever trying 2000 for Chip Ganassi Racing. 15 years later, he followed that up for a second win in the great spectacle of racing when he drove for Team Penske.
Yep.
Can he go for 3?
He could.
Another team. And McLaren, now they haven't won an IndyCar race since Johnny Rutherford 41 years ago.
But we'll see. It's going to be interesting because we obviously don't have any Indy 500 entries. That's too early.
Too early for that.
But because St. Petersburg is still over 80 days from now, and many days from now, which we're not even in March when the season starts. We're only in December.
See what else. Mike Snyder will contend for the 2021 Xfinity Series Championship, driving for Richard Childress Racing.
Yep.
Snyder, on his debut for the Daytona 300 earlier this year, won the pole position.
Yeah, and also people are wondering about if he's going to be a rookie. He's not going to be a rookie because he actually ran every race last year for 2 different teams. He ran his 10 races, I think, in the 7 or 10 races, doing that number in the 21. The rest of the season, he drove the 93. In the other races, he didn't run in the 21. So he did run full-time last year, but for 2 different teams. But he has a good shot, like, to get decent points. Like, he's focusing this year, like the problem about Mike Snyder this year, he was bouncing through the 93 and the 21. It was kind of hard for him because 2 different equipment lengths, different crew chiefs, different spotters. It's just different people. But this year, he has one car he's running through the full season, one crew chief, one spotter. Like, he has one team. So it's going to be more easier this year. Like, but I see good things with Myatt Snider because I've seen him, like, in the truck series, I've seen him do good in the truck series.
Snider ran in the Europe division full time 2019.
Yeah, and like he ran one truck race. He did good. He got top 5 in his when he replaced Sauter at Gateway.
Something tells me Myatt Snider has a well-rounded background, so that's going to especially translate in the Xfinity series as they run all kinds of tracks. The first time in series history, they'll be on a dirt track at Bristol, and they'll
Xfinity's not running there. Only trucks. Cup and Truck are the only 2 series running.
I take that back.
Yeah.
You know, also, I wanted to say, if you didn't pay attention today, there was more breaking news in Xfinity. Colby Howard will drive the number 15 full time for JD Motorsports. He didn't run a full season last year. He just ran part time, but he'll run for the full season. Good for him.
How about this? Eli Gold, the longtime radio play-by-play announcer for the Alabama Crimson Tide football team, who is known best in the motorsports community for calling NASCAR races on radio and TV, tested positive for COVID-19. He missed his first Alabama football game since 1988, 409 games.
Wow.
Consecutively. Never missed one until this past weekend. In another news, NASCAR driver Stanley Smith passed away at the age of 71. Stanley Smith almost lost his life in the 1993 Die Hard 500 at Talladega in a crash when his car hit head-on against a concrete outside wall. A crash that was known best for Jimmy Horton's car flying outside of the racetrack. After weeks in a coma and months in rehab, Stanley Smith returned to racing miraculously in short tracks around his home in Alabama until he hung up the helmet over 10 years ago. Remember, the 1993 Die Hard 500 was the first race in Talladega since Hughtown, Alabama's own Davey Allison lost his life in a plane crash. So like the Alabama gang, I'd say they as they mentioned, they were blessed.
Oh yeah,
by Stanley Smith making it through that wreck. Marco Bortolotti, the 2-time class winner of the Rolex 24 Daytona, who drove for Lamborghini for a long time and moved to Audi for 2020, will leave Audi after 1 year and will attempt to drive for another factory-supported manufacturer in sports car racing. How about the Daytona Road Course? Back in 2021, replacing Fontana. A part of the changes made round 2 will be the Daytona Road Course pushing Homestead to round 3 to improve travel restrictions. Not travel restrictions. Travel logistics. Because the Fontana race was called off for travel restrictions.
That's like the thing about Auto Club, which people don't pay attention about. Auto Club has been losing money since 2015. They've been losing money every year since 2015, which doesn't help when you keep losing money every year. Also, I just saw on my phone that Helmut Marko, you know, that guy from Red Bull, he said that Albon's future is due to be known before Christmas. So we might get to know what's going to happen for Red Bull's second seat before Christmas.
9 days.
I know people say that anything he says, it's a lie, but we'll see if it's true. We'll see what happens with that.
Only time will tell. in supercars news, Tim Blanchard Racing switched manufacturers. They will go to Ford Mustangs in 2021. They'll acquire driver Tim Slade, and Cool Drive Auto Parts will be their main sponsor for livery choice, becoming Cool Drive Racing for the 2021 Supercars Championship. I guess a fresh start is necessary for any team looking for a brighter future. Tim Blanchard Racing, I think they'll be on the podium. Without a doubt. Tyler Reddick, the two-time NASCAR Xfinity Series champion and 2018 winner of the Daytona 300, will accept an offer from our Motorsports and Chevrolet to attempt his second win at the Saturday Classic at Daytona.
Yep.
In 2018, Tyler Reddick beat Elliott Sadler in the closest finish in NASCAR Xfinity Series history at Daytona.
Oh my God! What?
At Junior Motorsports.
Now there's a rumor about that the second car for our, which I guess Ferrucci will be in that second car also for 20 races. They're running two full-time cars. The 02, Brett Moffitt, in that 02 car full-time.
I don't know how that's possible if he's running for trucks, but
I don't know what they're gonna do. But so far,
I kind of wish NASCAR could just let Moffitt compete for the championship with these restrictions.
But the thing is, I feel like
different series.
But the thing I think that Moffitt will have a better shot in the truck title than the Xfinity title because our Motorsports is still developing. While Niche Motorsports, they don't need to develop more compared to our. Okay, now there's a rumor about ours second entry being the number 03. 03 is a possible their number, possibly. Because 03 is not taken by any other teams in the Xfinity Series, so that's a possible number that they will run. Wait, whoa. Okay. I read that wrong. Don't know how. I saw Mike Harmon's name. I thought it said Mike Harmon, a colleague. I don't know what I read. No, it says Mike Harmon Racing, Mike Harmon. I thought it said colleague racing from him, and I'm like, what? So no, Mike Harmon's not going to be in
colleague racing is still uncertain with the driver choice and what they'll do for the Daytona 500.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, it was. Oh yeah, December 10th. That people didn't remember. Riley Herbst was officially announced. I knew this for like November.
Of course, kept secret.
But yeah, Riley Herbst is in the 98. That's gonna be interesting because I know Riley Herbst didn't do too well, and he did decent, but he finished behind Brendan Brown in points. And Brendan Brown was in more weaker equipment. Hearst was
just try not to live up to your family's name, Terrible Hearst.
Like the JGR at least did an overhaul with they still keep Brand Jones, with Brand Jones did decent. Same as
Daniel Hemrick. What an addition.
Yeah, they added Hemrick. They kicked out Riley Herbst for Hemrick, which I'm like, yeah, I would put Hemrick in the 18 over Herbst. Herbst just
I mean, he needs to improve. He'll definitely have that time to improve with Stewart Haas Racing being a factory-supported Ford team.
Yeah, because I've seen Riley Herbst randomly just do
Ford, they're still a little ways behind in their driver development program compared to the other two manufacturers in NASCAR, Chevrolet and Toyota. They're much ahead. Much more ahead in that category compared to Ford.
Okay. I just saw this. Spencer Davis will return part-time in his number 11 truck. So far, they're only scheduled, they're only running 2 races so far, which is both Daytona races. Yes, the trucks will run on the road course also. So far, they'll run the opener and then the road course, but I know but they might run more as the season goes on, which is good for Spencer Davis. I've seen him get good finishes for his own team.
I think the challenge for Spencer Davis and the team he's driving for is to make the races.
Yeah.
You have to qualify, and qualifying is a learning curve.
I know that the Daytona Road Course might not be that bad with many entries, but the Oval, that's where we see many.
We're still waiting for NASCAR to make the announcement for the other two series, because Xfinity they were supposed to have 36 as the grid limit for a race, and trucks would have 32 and expand to 40 this year.
Yeah, I remember when we had the 47 entries sometimes for the trucks, like at Charlotte, and somebody, race all 47. I'm like, not enough pit boxes for 47 entries.
But NASCAR, of course, still yet to make that decision. As a fan myself, I don't care if they have qualifying or not. I think 40 is a good number across the three divisions.
Yeah, 40 is a good number because I've seen truck races. Like, the thing that's a struggle for Xfinity, they struggle to get a full field. That's why they're low in the number. But the trucks have so many entries. Like, sometimes at Martinsville, you see 38 entries for 32 spots. You see, 6 DNFs. And not DNF, DNQs.
And then fans like us wonder, how would they have done? If they made the race, where could they have finished?
Yeah, it's like, I've seen, remember Kamikaze Games' prediction that one time at Daytona, and all three of those trucks did not even qualify for the race, which is like,
actually that was the best thing for any truck in the 2019 Daytona 250 to DNQ, because only 8 trucks finished the race. Everybody else crashed out.
Oh yeah, the Wreckfest. But 2020, the 2020 race started out early in the race of Ty Majeski flipping, which nobody expected that with 5 to go in stage 1, a truck already upside down.
That was very scary.
Yeah, it's like we've had so many. 2020 has been weird.
It has been, for sure. So next week we'll be back with the Below the Yellow Line podcast and our 90th episode. Yeah, we'll continue on the podcast and everything on this channel.
Yeah, it's going to be more less to talk about.
Right. We'll definitely bring content. Shorter off season.
Yeah, better than before when we had the longer off seasons like last year. Yeah.
Final thoughts, guys.
Let's just bring on the next year, and I hope everyone has very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a prosperous New Year. Yeah. And look forward to having great moments in 2021.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The end of a journey.
Yeah.
The end of a wild journey.
Yep.
So, for Danny, Justin, I'm Joe. Signing off. Have a good one.
Yep.